Hey guys and dolls. Before we jump into this episode, a note about our content today. This is created for adult audiences only. We advise listener discretion. So if you need a breather, take a break and come back later. This is your Pain Game podcast, where we talk about the game of living in and with chronic pain and trauma, getting to the heart of how to heal. I am your host, Lyndsay Soprano. On this show, I plan on discussing with doctors, chronic pain patients, holistic practitioners, loved ones, and anybody that is interested in having their voice heard in the chronic pain and trauma world that we live in. On this show, I have talked about CRPS, which I have for those of you who have never listened to the show. It's called Chronic Regional Pain Syndrome. But it is lovingly coined as the suicide disease. Way to go, whoever coined that for CRPS. The suicide disease. So at the end of the day, there's always this little message in the back of my brain and in the back of my heart that's like, well, you know what? If you're in too much pain, it's what it's called. So you could kind of go that route, right? And as we know on the show, we always cover trauma, abuse, chronic pain, shame, guilt, all of that, and addiction, all of which can lead to suicide and suicidal tendencies, suicidal thoughts. And that topic of suicide is near and dear to my heart for a multitude of reasons. I've battled with self-worth for my whole entire life. I might be doing it right now as we speak. I struggle with perfectionism like nobody's business. I used to struggle with addiction big time. I hid it pretty damn well, though. I hid it really, really well. Well, at least I thought I was. At least I thought I was hiding it. But I have experienced a few scary moments and times and places in this chronic pain journey of mine that showed me how precious the chemistry of our brain is and how precious our lives are and how precious our mindset is. And on this journey, I have been given multitudes of different medications and pain pills, none of which I take now. As I've mentioned, I do not do the pill thing. And a few of those, what I like to call brain changers, skewed my ability to think rationally. And in some cases, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what was real and what wasn't. And I have scared myself coming out of those places to hear what my sweetie experienced when I had a knife to my wrist or laying in a pool of my own vomit. Fun places to be. Very great. Very sexy places to find yourself in. Places that I don't remember being, but they came from somewhere. So I was incredibly miserable being alive when I was younger, no matter how great I looked, how good I did in school, how successful I was, how loving and given I was never going to hit the mark of perfection that at the time, I didn't even know that I was seeking. And what I've found is, and this is actually fairly recent, that I've found that in seeking perfection, you will always fail. You will always fail because it doesn't exist. And you know, we recently lost Matthew Perry from the show Friends. And I have been incredibly sad and heavy about his death, contemplating the why behind it all and looking back at some of my behaviors and some of the things that I've felt and been in those places of despair. And, you know, we all grew up with him and the other friends in our living room. We saw his addiction. We knew about his addiction. We all knew. And we all lost a friend. And we never know how heavy our souls are and how the souls around us might feel and how to handle that heaviness and handle those monsters within us. And those monsters that live within our loved ones. So let's talk about it. It sounds like a very uplifting episode today, but it will be. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to my guest today, Justin Brien. Hello. How are you, darling?
I'm doing well, Lyndsay. Thank you. How about yourself?
I'm doing so good. We had to reschedule a couple times to get us here, and I'm so happy that we are here.
Hey, we're here. We made it, and we get to talk about monsters and addiction and suicide. It's prevalent to more people than you'd actually think, right?
Well said.
A lot of people, like you say, are hiding.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, it takes its toll on people, and then people decide that they've had enough.
Yeah. Well, Justin is a mental health advocate, inspirational speaker, professional executive coach, and author of the Amazon bestselling book, Chasing Shadows, Fighting the Monster Within, and also has a brand new podcast out called The Stronger You Project. And I have read his book. I cried. I laughed. I highlighted, I dog-eared. The thing actually like is wet, not only with my tears, but I read it in the jacuzzi. So it's warped and it's beautiful and it sits behind me every day. And thank you for giving this book to me because it's been a wonderful gift that I've been able to read it and to meet you as well. He struggled with a 16-year-long battle with addiction and a lifelong battle with mental health and self-worth. He lost everything, as we hear so much with addiction. Lost his family, multiple jobs, friends, his son, his girlfriend, more. I mean, we get it. We know this is what happens within an addictive space. 3 years later, he got his family back and 4+ years of sobriety under his belt. So we're going to talk about it here. I am rolling out the red carpet out for you, babe. So let's get started on talking about the battle with your mental health and addiction, and let's take it from there. Let's get the party. Let's get your party started, babe.
Well, I partied with mental health and I partied with substance use. Those were two of my best friends to party with. I invited them everywhere I went, and they kind of led me down the path that I led. Growing up, I battled with low self-esteem, low self-worth, low self-confidence. And, I remember at 10 years old, I was driving with my stepdad and my stepbrother. And he looked over at me and he says, "Justin, would you fight your stepbrother?" I said, "Yeah, why not?" I said, "Okay." And all of a sudden the truck pulled off the road and he said, "Get out, you can fight him right here." And that was the first time I ever felt powerless in my life. I just put my head down and told him to take me home. I was scared. I was frightened. I felt weak and I felt powerless. But growing up, I was shoved in a locker before. I was shoved in a garbage can, although that one I might have deserved. I was a little chirpy, but I was cut from hockey teams that I always wanted to grow up and play on and watch my friends come to the school with their hockey jerseys on for a game. I'm Canadian. Hockey, it's in our blood. And I had to watch them wear their jerseys every day. So I felt powerless growing up and to control my outcomes. And, I started to develop insecurities at a very young age. And I started to wear a mask. So I was always a people pleaser. I was acting out. I was seeking validation. I made everybody laugh around me. I was the funny guy. But it's because I wanted to be noticed and liked by everybody. And it's because I didn't like myself. And because of those insecurities, I started to open up a bag. I put in low self-esteem, low self-worth, low self-confidence. And then I put it back on my back. And, I walked through elementary school, through junior high, through high school. And then that bag started to get heavy. When I got out of high school. And so I took it off and I opened it up and I started to put in drugs, alcohol, guilt, shame, anger, depression, and suicide in that bag. And then I zipped it back up and put it on my back. And then, I just kept walking. And what happens when you don't take care of the things that are weighing you down? Well, they start to eat you from the inside out. And by the time I turned 21, I found alcohol because I didn't drink much in high school. It really wasn't for me. When I got out of high school, I found what alcohol gave me, and that was self-esteem, self-worth, self-confidence. But what were those things? Well, they were fake. Everything they gave me were fake, but everything they soon started taking away from me was very real. By the time I was 24 years old, there's a couple of things that really stand out for me that I believe put me on the trajectory that I took. And I was bartending downtown Vancouver at that time, and a guy asked me, he said, "Justin, do you think you drink too much?" And I was like, "No, not a chance.
No way, not me.
No way. I'm only out every single night by myself."
No, I don't remember it, but no.
You can't be this awesome and have a drinking problem. Well, that's a lie. That's a big lie. Well, one night I'm out and, I graduated from alcohol use to drug abuse. And at 24, I actually did cocaine for the very first time. And I didn't remember the name, but my buddy told me I was funny. And then it clicked. And I have alcohol for confidence. I have drugs to be funny. I got Michael's special juice from Space Jam. One shot of this and one shot of that. And I'm Super Justin.
Super Justin.
Yeah. So, the words, "Are you an alcoholic?" ran through my head one time. And, I told myself I was too smart. I'm not a low life. I go to work. I pay my bills. But at that time, I told myself that I had a warm feeling rush up through my body. Like, I still remember the feeling. I remember I was walking across the Canby Street Bridge in Vancouver. I still remember it and looking up. And I was scared because I knew, but I didn't want to admit it, right? Because once you admit it, well, then if you don't make the change, that's when guilt and shame steps in, right? You don't admit that there's a problem, you're probably not going to feel guilty about it. You're not going to have a buildup of shame. But if you admit that, hey, Justin, you shouldn't be doing that, it's like, okay, well then all of a sudden you're going to be doing it. It's going to pop into your head. Might not be all the time, but you'll have that thought back there. I believe people are more aware than they think. They give themselves credit for it, but they're fighting it because once you admit it, you got to make the change. And I didn't want to make the change. About 6 months after that, I moved back home and managing a nightclub, and I got to get a ride home because I lost my license for drinking and driving. And, a topic of depression came up. This is 15 years ago. I didn't even know depression exists. I didn't even know what emotions were. I knew what alcohol, laughter, and having fun was. Or so I thought, because I was battling dark demons and drinking by myself. That was my best friend. Go home, grab a 2-6, drink it with 1 can of pop, and then go to bed. Wake up at 7 or 5 p.m. the next day, be at work for 7 p.m. because I was a bartender, work till 3 a.m. Same cycle. But me and my buddy started talking about the topic of depression, where I looked at him and I'm like, man, depression is for the weak. Some excuse. You got to man up. You got to go to work. You got to pay your bills. And I don't know why I said it back then, but I definitely know why I said it now, is because I was trying to look stronger on the outside than what I was feeling on the inside, right? So at 24, I have 2 major problems, mental health and substance use. But at 24, I'm ignoring 2 major problems, mental health and substance use. Now, I went down another 4 years of moving around, being a gypsy, going from city to city, from bar to bar, because I was a really good bartender. I could literally go into any restaurant, train up within 30 minutes, and I would know what to do. Like they would normally not tip you out for your first 3-4 shifts, but I could pick it up, and I'd usually get tipped out that night because I'd split it with the bartender. And so I could pick it up. I could go anywhere, right? And I just started living out of a suitcase, going from town to town. Finally ended up back home at 28. And I was losing a lot of things. I was losing jobs, like bartending jobs, because I'd show up drunk. And I would tell them, I'd be like, guys, I'm drunk. Like,
I'm starting my shift 7 drinks under. Is that okay?
Yeah. I'm like, for some reason, when I got drunk, I got a little bit honest.
We all get honest with it. And that's actually one of the things that's so scary, because you're like, whoa, wait a second. Did I say those things out loud? I'm hearing myself saying these things. Like, wow. And it's a truth serum.
Yeah, I got let go of so many jobs where it's like, man, like, we love you. Like, just smarten up. Like, we want you here, but they have their thing to follow. And I mean, some of you even reached back out. They wanted me to go back, but I was already gone, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm out. This is nothing. So finally at 28, I moved back home, and I finally realized, you know what, Justin, you're depressed, man. And you know what? You abuse drugs and alcohol. So I asked for help. However, when I asked for help at 28, that's when my suicidal thoughts started to come up.
Oh, interesting. After you decided to ask for help, that's when you actually started to get suicidal.
Well, I started to learn, because I started to try to quit drinking, right? So I was taking away my coping mechanism, trying to go sober. And when you go sober, you have to deal with all your emotions with yourself, or with a counselor, or with a medication. And I didn't want to go on medication at the beginning. I'm like, I don't want to be a pill popper. Okay, you're going to snort that line of cocaine, but you don't want to take medication for your mental illness. What? And it took it. Yeah, my reasoning was not the greatest back then, but I asked for help, and I go on and off drinking and go on and off meds, which they're not going to work unless you take them, right? So I ended up meeting a girl, and we hang out, but eventually we ended up breaking up. My drinking was too much. And then all of a sudden she phones me and she says, Justin, we need to talk. Okay. She's pregnant. And she looks at me, she's like, Justin, she's like, you don't need to be in this relationship, or you don't need to be a dad, but I'm keeping this baby. And I'm like, wait, man, obviously I'm going to be a dad. I was scared shitless. I'm like, I can't even take care of myself. How am I going to take care of this kid? One of the worst feelings I've ever had was, I don't want my son to be like me. And it's like, I'm going to bring a kid into this world, and I hate myself so much. I'm messing up so much. I don't want him to be like me. Well, we ended up getting back together, and I was actually off work for about 9 months. Work told me to, Justin, go get your stuff together, because I worked at a mill, and I was running heavy equipment and working on a 400-degree press, putting plywood together. And you can really hurt somebody. And my thoughts and my emotions were not there. I'd be sitting on across from somebody and be like, am I going to make it? Am I going to make it? Am I going to make it? And I'd forget people's names. And I'm very fortunate that I never hurt anybody. And when you don't get help for your mental health, you're going to have a hard time regulating your emotions. And that's what I was doing. So they finally said, go get some help. And I finally crashed a car. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to rehab. I got to get out of town. But I kind of went for the wrong reasons. I was embarrassed because I'm from a small town of 18,000 people. You know, I worked at the sports store. I worked at the mill. I worked at the bar. But everybody knew me, right? And so if they see a person crash the car on the side of the road, all of a sudden, here comes these text messages. Are you okay? I'm like, okay, I need help. So I ended up going to rehab. And when I went to rehab, she was about 7 months pregnant. And I went to rehab. It was with 60 other men for 35 days. And I went to all my classes and I worked out and, I made some friends. And, in rehab, I felt normal. I didn't feel like the black sheep anymore. Rehab was easy for me. And talking about my feelings was different because I had a group of 10 other dudes and we were all messed up. We all had problems. We could get emotional. We could cry in front of each other. We disappointed people. Some were from jail. We were just messed up dudes working together. So I felt normal and safe there, which I'm not sure if everybody does.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where when you go into situations where you're not, to use your words, not the black sheep anymore, I completely identify with that because I also was. Everybody would say right now, even talking to me right now or looking at me right now, having this conversation, that I am extroverted, like nobody's business. Well, I put on costumes, I put on masks, I built up every kind of person that I should be for everybody else, no matter what group I was in. I was one of those girls in high school and in college and even in work life where I was able to adapt to multiple types of groups. I was able to be with the sports people. I was in performing arts. I was really smart. I was all these different things. And I put on every single possible mask I could possibly put on. And everybody thinks that I was just this happy-go-lucky, fun, talented, smart, witty, whatever person. And inside, I'm like, all I want to do is go back home and not be around any people and be very, very introverted. And it's scary. So when you do find a place where you find people that are like yourself truly deep inside, that's when you're like, what's up, homie? You get it about me and I can be who I am without my mask. I can take all of that off, which is really hard to do when you're not in a setting when people don't understand.
No, and when I would go out, I would pre-drink. Like I would pick up like one of those mini Mickeys from a store and I would drink it.
Mickeys?
Like a mini Mickey. Oh, sorry, we're Canadian. Is that not an American word?
No, it's an American word too. I'm just laughing because I remember.
So yeah, it was like one of those 6 or 8 ounce Mickeys, and then there's the 15 or the 12 ounce ones.
Oh yeah.
So I got the mini one, and then I would crush it just to go to a friend's house, just because I had an algorithm. I'll have this many drinks, and I'm going to be funny. I'm going to have this many drinks, and I'm going to talk to that girl. Yep. I'm going to have this many drinks, and I'm going to the dance floor. I'm going to have this many drinks just so I can hang out with my friends.
It's like methodical. Like we used to do it. Like my ex-husband and I was like, okay, well, we're going over to my parents' house. So we got a pre-party to go to Thanksgiving.
Isn't that everybody when they go to their parents' house? But I would be at their house and I would just look at them and I'd feel like I was losing my touch. So I'd have some more drinks. And
yeah,
I would sit there and be like, why are these guys hanging out with me? Like, I'm such a loser. Like, I'm such a failure. Why are they even hanging out with me? People would be like, how you doing? And I'd be like, I'd be thinking of suicide. And I just look at them and I'd be like, I'm doing awesome, man. How are you doing? Man, you're looking good. Right? And I could flip it where I could literally think of that at the same time as I'm speaking. So I got out of rehab. And the first thing I said was I was not done drinking forever. And you probably guess what happened.
Yeah, because I read your book.
Fair enough. Okay, listeners, you can probably guess what happened. 1 month later, we have our son. 2 months later, I start making bad decisions, hitting the bottle. Aww. And 6 months after that, my girlfriend probably had to make the toughest decision of her life, pick up my son and leave me at my lowest point. And I don't blame her because I was in no shape to have a kid around. And my kid didn't need to see that, right? She came home from a vacation one time and I was white girl wasted. As we say up here in Canada.
Aren't you all white up there, though? white girl wasted. I'm dead. I have to write it down. That's like, yeah, for sure. You need to like bumper sticker that shit because that's epic. I just white girl wasted. Totally. I can see it.
Asking the bartender to play a song. I'm not the DJ.
Oh my God. You're screaming on the dance floor with all the other girls.
Party girl.
My favorite song came on.
The shoes are off and everything.
Oh my God. I'm dead.
That's another story. But she was walking in the house with my son after she just visited her family for 30 days. And here I am, drunk out of my mind. And she's just like, I can't do it. She walked out. And finally I was like, I just had to watch my world walk out of my house. And, my suicidal thoughts started to build up and build up and build up. And I was very fortunate that, I don't know, that one time I woke up, I had a knife in my bed and, I had blood in my bed and my wrists were cut. And I'm fortunate to be here. I don't remember doing it. I remember calling my mom to come get me as I was at a pub. I'm like, Mom, I need to come home. And she said I was talking weird, but I was living underneath her. And she felt safe knowing that I was home. And yeah, I was very fortunate, but I had to wear makeup on my wrists. And there's not a lot of my friends that know still. If they want to know, they can read the book. I don't go bragging about it or anything. It's
a hard topic to go bragging about. Yeah.
When I go to schools, I don't talk about it either in my keynote speeches. It's just pretty deep, pretty dark, but I'm not afraid to talk about it because, you were talking about the suicide disease or whatever. And I had to come to terms with not too long ago after I heard about a story from the guy that jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge. He was on Ed Milet's podcast, and the things that had to happen for him to survive, like a seal caught him, he broke his back, right? And then for him to get the surgery he had, he was lucky that the surgeon was on in San Francisco. And he's like, I still have suicidal thoughts. And it took me a very long time because I went to the Ronald McDonald for the birth of my daughter. And I was getting those thoughts again, like, why me? Why now? Because watching her going through what she went through, I was down. I was getting dark again. And then it took me a long time to realize that I may still have these thoughts. They're okay to have those thoughts for me personally, but I know they're not an option anymore. Now I allow them to come in, allow them to flow through. I acknowledge them. I don't ignore them, but I question them. But I got those suicidal thoughts very, very hard. And, I became an organ donor, got milk thistle for my liver, got kidney flush. I was trying to eat healthy so I could prepare my body to donate to somebody. And I remember walking into the DMV where you do it here in Canada. And I'm like, I need to be an organ donor. And the lady looked at me and she's like, oh, good for you, sir. We need more people like you. I'm like, just remember looking at her curly brown hair, like, you don't know why, but thank you. But yeah, I got that low. And then finally, on January 4th, 2019, I found myself sitting in my basement suite alone, like windows drawn, like tint foil on them, towels, like its light was evil. Dark was my friend. And I was looking at pictures of my son. I was looking at his toys. And then finally, I'm like, Justin, you got two choices here, man. You can either end it or ask for help. And finally, with that, I phoned up my mom. I said, you need to take me to the hospital. And she did. And finally, with my dad to my left, my mom in front of me, and the counselor to my right, I finally admitted those words aloud that if I was going to continue to feel the way that I did, that I had a plan. And that plan was to ultimately end it. And seeing that in front of them, that took a lot of weight off. It didn't cure anything. But just to be able to say that in front of them so they know how I truly felt, that definitely helped. And I was allowed to go home that day because I lived with my mom still. And ever since that day, I got back together with the mother of my children. We now have another baby girl. I get to see my son every day. I get to coach him in hockey. I get to coach him in baseball. I became a speaker. I became a coach. I became an author. And it's all because I finally, I accepted that I needed help. And I finally asked for it and got the help that I needed. And now I'm able to do what I do. And, it was quite the journey to get here.
I would say so. And you cover so much of that in your book. The organ donor part sticks out to me. In fact, I have that sticky noted. One of my sticky notes in your book was the absolute like planning that goes into people that are legitimately contemplating this. I call it writing letters. And it's writing letters to your loved ones to make sure that they know, your wishes, what they meant to you, why you did this, da, 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 da. Like, it's so sad and so scary and so unbelievable that I would even say those words out loud right now, that I've even contemplated it, that this stuff has happened and that nobody knows about it, because I've kept my mouth shut and I've been so masked for so long for everybody in my world. And I find myself still doing it. I mean, give me a break. Everybody dresses up for the show. I mean, we all are hiding something, right? But the point is to not feel that we need to hide anymore, because when you're in that spot where you feel you always have to run away, you have to run to your addiction, whatever that might be. It can be food, it can be gambling, it can be drugs, it can be alcohol, it can be sex, it can be whatever it is. It can be shopping. The addiction is a version of a coping mechanism for you. And when you're able to open up and finally go, you know what? Hey, this is what's going on. I'm not perfect. I don't know what I'm going to do right now, but this is where I am right now. And being honest with yourself and being honest with your loved ones is so incredibly important. I mean, aren't you worried about me? Like, have you not been worried about me for this entire time? You're just now caring, or are you just now noticing, or whatever? And what I found is a lot of the people are like, yeah, we just didn't want to say anything. Or, yeah, we were a little worried. And then you kind of just didn't seem like anything was wrong again. And I was like, oh my gosh, like being left behind in some of those conversations. I think we need to be more cognizant of the people that are around us and what they are struggling with, and ask them how they're doing, ask how people are doing around you. How are you? And if they're like, all right, well, what's going on, because I know so many times I'll go, and they're like, all right. And it's just like, next topic. You're like, well, there might be a reason why I'm not saying I'm great.
I like to do that. It's the rule of three. Like, how you doing? I'm okay. How you doing? I'm okay. How are you really doing?
Right. Yeah. Oh, well, actually.
Okay, say that thought. I'm busy.
Yeah. I beat up a mother in the carpool lane this morning, and I'm not sure where it came from.
She gave me the thumbs up. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. And now my kid's expelled, and I don't know what to do about it. Oh, man. So you pull yourself through all of this. I would like to talk a little bit about the Ronald McDonald House, because that part of your book and with your daughter, we haven't talked about her. I would like to, if that's okay with you, because she's beautiful and what you've done with her. If you can talk to us a little bit about her health, because I was concerned about you derailing. I'm in that part of the book and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be such a challenge for him to stay sober and to work through this, because it shows a lot about you. I mean, a lot.
Yeah. Oh man, I've been tested.
Yes, you have.
In my 4 years of being sober. In sobriety, in recovery, they tell you don't do anything for a year. And in 6 months, I'm getting back together with the mother of my children. I went back to work as a bartender. And I don't encourage people who deal with addiction to become a bartender. Yeah. But when it just clicks for you, it clicked for me. I knew I wasn't going backwards. If I might go backwards with my emotions, but I'm not going backwards with my addiction. And I could work at night. I could go to school to be a speaker and a coach during the day, and I could be with my family. I could make enough money to pay our bills. But me and my girlfriend, we wanted to have another kid. She is now my wife, by the way. And we wanted to have another kid.
I was wondering when that was going to come up.
Yeah, we got married. It was a very small wedding. But that's another thing that almost put me, I'll talk about that too.
Yeah.
So we wanted to have another kid, and we tried. And we lost one. And then, I'm actually supposed to be a father of 6 with her. Yeah, but, we went through 4 miscarriages.
Wow.
3 to 4 years, 3 to 4 years, plus the birth of our daughter.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And one of those was fairly traumatic, that it was hard to see, hard to watch something like that. But it's been tested. But one, OSHA, she made it, but it was touch and go almost. So we're both older, so we wanted to get testing for Down syndrome, because we knew there would be a chance of Down syndrome. And when we went and got the neck measured, it came back, because if you have a little bit bigger of a neck, I think it's 9 millimeters or 11 millimeters, there's a chance of Down syndrome. So they came back that she had a bigger neck. So we went down to the children's hospital, and then they did an ultrasound, and they found that she had a hole in her heart, or 2 holes in her heart, and needed a valve to be rebuilt. But also she had webbing in her intestine called a duodenal atresia. Sorry. And then she had a AVSD in her heart. So she still has a shunt up at top, but she had a hole repaired and a valve rebuilt. And with that, Down syndrome babies have 50% of them have heart complications. And so she got that one, but then she also got the webbing in the intestine. So we knew that we were going to have to go down to the Ronald McDonald House and stay there while she had to get these 2 surgeries. My family went down first, and I was going to go down a week later because she wasn't due till the 24th of September. But all of a sudden, they're going to induce her. I'm like, okay, well, you go down and I'll come. They went down in August. I'll come down on the 1st. Well, all of a sudden, I was working so much that summer because I was saving so we could go and be as a family at the Ronald McDonald House. I was doing 7 days a week, 12-hour shifts. We're working in the restaurant business around people nonstop all day on my feet, managing, serving, bartending, whatever. So I'd be drinking black coffee all day, right? Just to make it. I was in a state of burnout. I'd wake up tired, go to sleep, but I was taking melatonin at night, and I just came home, popped a couple of melatonin, and Renee calls me. She's like, my water broke. I'm like, oh man, I just popped melatonin 15 minutes ago. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, I could do it, but I didn't want to put anybody else in jeopardy. So I waited. I tried to go sleep, slept from like 11 till 4 a.m. And then I got up and I was on my way. However, the Ronald McDonald House is in Vancouver. I'm in a small town, about 5 hours from it. So I'm driving there, and all these thoughts are going through my head. Like, is she going to make it? I'm in this bad mindset. And I got a text. Finally, she arrived. And I told her before I left, you tell her she stays put. That's coming. Well, here's my daughter. I haven't even met her. She's not even listening to me. She's already not listening to me, going against my wishes. But I get to the hospital and
get used to it. Get used to it.
I know. She still doesn't. But we weren't able to see her for 2 hours. But she was small. She was 3 weeks early, but she was at least 5 pounds, which is okay. But then I got to walk into the room, and you walk into the NICU, and you just see her in a dome kind of thing, and with tubes and stuff, and like she's no bigger than my hand.
Yeah,
and it's tough. I couldn't hold her for the first 5 days. For the next day, she was wheeled out. They just bring in this team of 6 or 7 people, and then she's gone. And you're like, huh, all right, well. All you can do is hope the surgery goes well. And, they bring her back, and you just look at her, and finally we got to take her out. But it's scary to take her out because she's hooked up to all these different tubes, right? She has a breathing apparatus, which she had to keep for 6 months. Finally, it came up to her heart surgery time. And so they take you into a room, and there's a whiteboard, 2 doctors, and the doctor, he made you feel comfortable, but then they start going over stats, and you're just like, holy cow. Like, 1 out of this, 1 out of that, 1 out of that, the septic, infection, this, that, this.
Yeah.
You're like, holy cow, this just got real. So we book her surgery. They take her away, and it's just during COVID. So only one person could go. And I knew Renee really wanted to go with her. So I'm like, okay, Renee, you go. She walked her down, came back, and started crying, and we just went back to the Ronald McDonald House and said it's going to be touch and go. Like the first 4, I think they said the first 4 hours or first 8 hours or something are critical. But then we got a call 16 hours later. She flatlined, and we're like, holy shit. And she almost had, but the 2 minutes they gave her CPR and brought her back to life. She almost had to go on the ECMO machine. And all you want to do is you want to go see her, but they had a room full of 16 doctors or something like that. No, there's going to be no room for you in here. There's nothing you can do. She's on a paralytic. She's sedated. Come see her the next day or something. I think we went in the next day, and we walked in that room. It was just, there's tubes, more tubes, there's bags, and she's sedated, and she still has her chest cut open because they couldn't shut it because there's too much pressure.
Oh my gosh.
Right here.
Ugh.
And then
I don't know how you did it. I don't know how you did it.
You just do it.
Yeah.
I started talking to a counselor at the hospital, which was good. I started reaching out because I partnered up with Canadian Mental Health Associations a couple times and spoke with them. So I knew some counselors, but it's just something you do. I don't know how to explain it. You see it for what it is, you accept it. And that's a big thing I talk about is accepting, right? Doesn't mean you have to accept what's happened in your life. Doesn't mean you have to like it, not one bit. But you have to accept it because it's truly happened and there's nothing I can do. It's outside of my control, but I can be there for my family. I can be there to support my daughter. But seeing her like that, it reminded me of when my stepdad passed away in front of me when I was giving him CPR. Just the way he looked at me, his last breath, his one eye kind of being open, her eye being open. Like it was like, I'm like, this is not happening. This can't happen again. But that was tough. It was tough to go through. But she made a recovery and she became off the breathing. So we were allowed to go home after 6 months. And when we got home, she ended up having to go back on the breathing. She was on 6 different med times. She was on 6 different feed times. So you're up throughout the night. And as soon as she got back home, she started crying in the night, like screaming once or twice a night. I don't know what it was. The only thing that would keep you up at the Royal or in the children's hospital was the beeping or the changing of the bags. But as soon as she got home, it was once or twice or 3 times a night to console her, the feedings, the cleaning the bags, washing the feeding tubes, and she kept pulling her NG tube out. And so you feed her. So we actually had these little things that you put on her hands that kept her hands like out to the side, her arms, so she couldn't bend them.
Oh my God.
They look like little stints. Like, you feel bad, but she pulls it out. She could choke, right? If she pulls it too, like not far, she doesn't pull like all the way out. It could pull just enough where it's not in her stomach, where it could go into her lungs. Or she pull it out and it'd be running, and then it just get all on your bed. Which has happened more.
Okay, I can tell you why she's crying and screaming right now. It's like she has been cut open, broken in a NICU, surrounded by bright lights, beeping sounds. This is her first welcome into the world. This poor little thing is a warrior already. What a badass. She's gotten that from both you and Renee. I mean, she has to have had. Because Renee obviously is stuck around. She deserves a medal, by the way.
Yeah, she's dealt with me.
Yeah, exactly. Reading about the whole story, which you guys do need to read the entire book. The story just goes on and on with you, Buster. And I'm so grateful that that you're here for starters. So let's give you a round of applause for that. And me too. So everybody clap for us as we're here. But your little baby doll, you think about the things that happen to us from a traumatic perspective in our lives over our years. You don't expect it to happen, or certainly not want it to happen right out of the gates when you're first born. Like they're already given a rough map at birth, and, really I have a nephew of mine who was born premature, and he was a little baby doll. He was like the size of a dollar bill, and in the NICU, and all of the pictures of the tubes and all of that stuff. And, it's a scary place to be. And you had to keep your sobriety throughout all of this. Did you?
Yeah. Yeah.
How hard was that for you to do?
I don't know. It was, I knew it wasn't an option for me. And I knew I've known, I told a buddy once that I was born resilient. I believe we all are born resilient. It's just we got to tap into it. And I tapped into mine. And I know that everything I go through, I will be able to get back up. I know that. I don't know how long it will take me. But I know I can handle anything just because I've seen a lot. I've been a part of a lot of things that are scary, and I'm still here. But it's all on how you look at it. You're not here for a very long time. Life doesn't care how you feel, like life itself. A lot of people do.
Well said.
A lot of people do. Like there's so many people that you don't even know that care for you. People that love you, people that matter, and even strangers, they care for you, but life doesn't care of the situations that you're going through. But those situations that you go through, you got to learn from them. You got to accept them, but you got to sit with them. Don't ignore them, because I realized that, one of the things that I'm not good at is, or too good at, let's say, is death. Having a best friend pass away, my grandfather passing away, my cousin passing away. And I was like, I'm accepting these too fast as being a part of life. So when I say accept things as they are, you got to accept them, but you got to deal with them as well. And I've recently realized that I'm accepting them too quick, and that I probably should talk about them personally myself, because then I got into that mindset. Okay, well, it's life, whatever. Well, it is life, but hey, you still got to sit with your feelings. You got to acknowledge them, and you got to start that healing journey. But it's just with the things that I've gone through. I know that I can't drink. Well, I don't say can. I know I shouldn't. I don't want to say can. I can do whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm a better person if I don't drink.
Yeah. Did you find that alcohol or drugs were more of to your detriment? Was it more of the alcohol that did it, or was it more of the cocaine side of things? I'm just curious.
Probably alcohol for sure, because I wouldn't turn it off. With cocaine, it actually made me more outgoing almost. I'd like to, well, that's what it does. I'd like to talk, but also with ADHD, it calms you down a little bit more. It's a little different than with the person that doesn't have ADHD, right?
Yes. I'm glad that you pointed that out. Yeah.
Yeah. That has, so the drug acts a little, same thing with caffeine. If you have ADHD, it acts a little different. And same with cocaine. If you have ADHD, it actually calms me down a little bit. I mean, I'm still like fidgety, super fidgety.
I'm still gacking out and chewing my mouth off, but other than that, my tongue out of my mouth. But I'm super chill.
I'm really pleasant to be around. That's a lie. I'm the only one that ever said I was pleasant to be around. No one ever said. I
just did a shit ton of home improvement projects when I used cocaine back in the day. I'm like at Home Depot with my best friend at the time, and we're like, let's go. It's 5 a.m. Where are the people? We're going into Home Depot right now.
Oh, man. I didn't even want to be in public anymore.
Oh, God. Well, you get to that point. Yeah, absolutely. For sure. Because at some point,
being by myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's the introvert in us too. I'm a total homebody. You would never guess it. And over the years, it's gotten a little worse just because of my mobility issues. But yeah, when you're hiding from yourself, of course you're going to hide from other people. Like you said, and you say in the book about the tinfoil over your windows and living in the dark and doing that. I work in the dark. So I always do. I'm a little light sensitive. And so when I can, I like turn the lights off and I work in the dark. And so, but yeah, maybe there's a little bit of that in the back of my mind that likes to hide up in my cave in here. I don't know. So, but you were able to stay sober, which is amazing. So, okay. So I know that we're creeping on time here. So, let's talk a little bit about, you've got yourself through all of this. And so you decided you're sober, you've got your babies, you've got your wife, you've got your family, you've got all these things are back into place as best as they can be. I mean, we all lack in some places, guys. So, that perfectionism thing doesn't exist. Don't try to be a people pleaser anymore. Don't try to be a perfectionist anymore. It doesn't work. So now you've moved into, you're an inspirational coach and teacher and speaker and all these things. Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing now to kind of pay it forward? Because I think that's what you're doing a really good job doing.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm definitely trying. And don't get me wrong, I still struggle. Like I can still have bouts of depression.
Sure. We're human.
I'm trying to give back the best I could from a world that I feel like I took so much from, because I was a mess and I wasn't the greatest person all the time. And I did whatever I could to fulfill my needs, if that meant steal or lie. So now I go around to schools and businesses and organizations and sports teams, and I speak on the power of your mental health and how it may lead to things like substance use. And what I do is I take them through a journey of my story, but I have things I talk about with my 3 A's of admit the problem, accept it internally, ask for help. I talk about how, what helped me the most was finding my why and my son, reframing my thoughts to being, instead of being ending it so you can have a better dad, I've become that dad, right? And how, if you can't see yourself as your why, which 100% you are your why, you find something, because you know what? It always comes back on you. I got better for him. I got better for me. Your why, if you do something for something, it always comes back on you because you end up gaining it. And then one day, hopefully you see that you are your own why. And then I talk about, the importance of self-love, loving that person staring back at you in the mirror, having compassion for yourself and others. That mental health is very real and does not discriminate, doesn't care your age, race, gender, what you do for a living, how much money you have in the bank, how big, how strong you think you are. It can affect either you or the ones around you that you love. And then the importance of your internal dialogue, because the person you spend the most time with in this lifetime is yourself. It's not a dog. It's not your spouse, it's not your friends, it's not your family, it is yourself. So that therefore the most conversations you will ever have with yourself is with yourself. Sorry. And they say up to 80% of your thoughts can be repetitive. They can be negative. So your thoughts are powerful. So I tell people to be wary of their thoughts, because not all thoughts are facts. That you will have thoughts in your brain that you make up, that you believe are true, but there's no facts surrounding them, right? So it's paying attention to your thoughts. And then, I speak on the power of, personal awareness and choices. We as people have one thing in common, that really sticks out, and that's choices, the power to choose, the power to make decisions. We choose the life we live. We may not choose our certain circumstances, right? But, I talk about, I chose to keep using. I chose to not accept help, but I chose to use over feeling, right? But I also let them know that if you choose using over feeling, it can be the last choice you ever make. And hence why I lost a best friend and, a cousin. So I go around and I speak on basically all of that. I speak on inclusion, having a daughter with Down syndrome. I've been very fortunate that I've done a lot of things, accomplished a lot of things, worked at a lot of places in my life that I have a big relatability factor to a lot of people. So I want to be able to, I was very fortunate that when I came out of rehab, that the restaurant I worked for gave me a chance. They knew of my past. I was open, listen, I'm an alcoholic, but I'm a drug addict. I'm depressed. And they gave me a chance. And 3 years later, they hired me to be their general manager. Now they hired me to run a Facebook page for them. They would actually pay all their staff to get a coaching session from me. That's how good the owners are. Yeah,
that's
pretty
awesome.
incredible from a business. And it's all because somebody gave me a choice. Somebody included me into their decisions. And I hope somebody one day sees my daughter as that her disability is an ability somewhere else.
Oh, it's 100% an ability. I mean, beautiful. And especially nowadays, we've got such better tools and resources and help for Downs community. I've got a girlfriend of mine who's got a Downs daughter, and she's so good to her. She's got her own little Instagram page. It's just inclusion is so incredibly important, and that goes with all of us because we all are a little down. We all need a little bit more of a pick me up. We all need more help than we actually think that we do. We can't do this life on our own. We're not meant to be humans alone. We're supposed to be connected. We're supposed to build relationships. We're supposed to fall in love. We're supposed to make babies or make dogs. You watch your mouth about the dog. You watch your mouth about the dog thing. But I'm going to make so many baby dogs. It's just going to be unbelievable. I do. I don't have children and I'm not going to. Knock on wood. God bless America. No, it's such a wonderful story of perseverance and resilience. And we've all got that grit and that moxie in us. I certainly do. I know you do. And I'm so grateful to have met you and to meet you today and connect with you. And I just adore you. So let's talk about your book. So your book, really quick, I want to do a quick shout out to you guys. The Chasing Shadows, Fighting the Monster Within. It is so incredible, guys. He opens up the book with an acknowledgement in the beginning. It says, to those we have lost to suicide and substance abuse, you are not forgotten. And to all of the people who showed me love, even when I couldn't, thank you. And I just love that because, it is a message of showing love. And that's something that I feel like we need to do a little bit more of. We get so caught up and we forget how incredible we are. And and we're both crying. So there you go.
It's hot in here.
Oh, bullshit.
I have the heat up.
Yeah. I just cranked the heat up on you. Nice try. So, we thank you. We thank you to those that love us and that have been there to support us and to lift us up out of our dark and twisty places and who have helped us fight the monsters. And it's one of the reasons that I started this show. And it's one of the reasons I'm so blessed to have you on the show and be part of my life now, Justin. So thank you.
Thank you, Lyndsay, so much for having me. Yeah,
that kind of snuck up on us. Sorry about that.
That's I was trying to look at my eyes in the video. I'm like, can you see that they're going beet red?
I've got the tissues out and everything. There's a whole thing over here, guys.
I don't have tissues. I've never cried in a podcast.
Well, this is why I'm here. I bring out the best in people. Well, thank you so much for your time here today. Tell us where we can find you, Justin.
You can find me at www.justinbrien.com. That's Brien.com. At JustinBrien19 on Instagram, at Justin Inspiration on TikTok. If you want a book that will teach you around mental health, substance use, it's like a workbook. I took everything I learned in personal development, in rehab. I put questions at the end of every chapter for you. It's more than an autobiography because I want to be more than a story. And I want you to learn.
Well, thank you so much. And guys, check out. He's on Instagram. He's on Facebook. He's on LinkedIn. His website, like he said, Justin Brien. It's Brien because he has to make everything complicated. He's got his book, Chasing Shadows, Fighting the Monster Within. And also, please tune into his brand new podcast, The Stronger You Project. Thank you again for your time today and our tears and our laughter. That's what life's all about.
Thanks for having me.
You are exclusively invited to share this being more than a story. VIP pain journey together. Let us get to the heart of how to heal with you by my side. Do you know anyone who is living in and with chronic pain or is dealing with suicidal tendencies or addiction issues? If you do, please send them here to the Pain Game Podcast and to Justin Brien. We would love to connect with you, them, and hear their heartfelt stories of strength, wisdom, grit, and moxie, right? I'd love to have my community of listeners help drive more traffic to my show and to Justin so that we can continue to help others on their journeys through pain and trauma together. Please follow the Pain Game Podcast wherever you digest your podcast content. We will be there. Visit us at thepaingamepodcast.com and follow us on all the socials. Thanks for listening, my little VIPs. Catch you on the other side.